Kent, KNT, is a county in southeast England and one of the home counties. It borders Greater London to the northwest, Surrey to the west and East Sussex to the southwest. The county town is Maidstone. Canterbury Cathedral in Kent has been the seat of the Archbishop of Canterbury, leader of the Church of England, since the conversion of England to Christianity by St. Augustine in the 6th century. Between London and the Strait of Dover, which separates it from mainland Europe, Kent has seen both diplomacy and conflict, ranging from the Leeds Castle peace talks of 1978 and 2004 to the Battle of Britain in World War II. England relied on the county's ports to provide warships through much of its history, the Cinque Ports in the 12th–14th centuries and Chatham Dockyard in the 16th–20th centuries were of particular importance. France can be seen clearly in fine weather from Folkestone and the White Cliffs of Dover. Hills in the form of the North Downs and the Greensand Ridge span the length of the county, and in the series of valleys in between and to the south are most of the county's 26 castles. Because of its relative abundance of fruit growing and hop gardens, Kent is known as the Garden of England. The title was defended in 2006 when a survey of beautiful counties by the UK TV-style Gardens channel put Kent in 5th place, behind North Yorkshire, Devon, Derbyshire and Gloucestershire. Haulage, logistics and tourism are major industries throughout the county. Major industries in northwest Kent include aggregate building materials, printing and scientific research. Coal mining has also played its part in Kent's industrial heritage. Large parts of Kent are within the London commuter belt. 28% of the county forms part of two areas of outstanding natural beauty: the North Downs and the Weald. History. The area has been occupied since the Paleolithic era, as attested by finds from the quarries at Swanscombe. The Medway megaliths were built during the Neolithic era. There is a rich sequence of Bronze Age, Iron Age, and Roman era occupation, as indicated by finds and features such as the Ringlemere Gold Cup and the Roman villas of the Darent Valley. The modern name of Kent is derived from the Brythonic word cantus, meaning rim or border. This describes the eastern part of the current county area as a borderland or coastal district. Julius Caesar had described the area as Cantium, or home of the Cantiaci, in 51 BC. The extreme west of the modern county was by the time of Roman Britain occupied by Iron Age tribes, known as the Regnenses. East Kent became a kingdom of the Jutes during the 5th century and was known as Cantia from about 730 and recorded ascent in 835. The early medieval inhabitants of the county were known as the Cantuara, or Kent people. These people regarded the city of Canterbury as their capital. In 597, Pope Gregory I appointed the religious missionary as the first Archbishop of Canterbury. In the previous year, Augustine successfully converted the pagan King Ethelbert of Kent to Christianity. The Diocese of Canterbury became Britain's first episcopal see with First Cathedral and has since remained Britain's centre of Christianity. The second designated English cathedral was in Kent at Rochester Cathedral. In the 11th century, the people of Kent adopted the motto Invicta, meaning undefeated. This naming followed the invasion of Britain by William of Normandy. The Kent people's continued resistance against the Normans led to Kent's designation as a semi-autonomous county palatine in 1067. Under the nominal rule of William's half-brother Odo of Bayeux, the county was granted similar powers to those granted in the areas bordering Wales and Scotland. During the medieval and early modern period, Kent played a major role in several of England's most notable rebellions, including the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, led by Wat Tyler, Jack Cade's Kent Rebellion of 1450, and Wyatt's Rebellion of 1554 against Queen Mary I. The Royal Navy first used the River Medway in 1547. By the reign of Elizabeth I, a small dockyard had been established at Chatham. By 1618, storehouses, a ropewalk, a dry dock, and houses for officials had been built downstream from Chatham. By the 17th century, tensions between Britain and the powers of the Netherlands and France led to increasing military build-up in the county. Forts were built all along the coast following the raid on the Medway. A successful attack by the Dutch Navy on the shipyards of the Medway towns in 1667. The 18th century was dominated by wars with France, during which the Medway became the primary base for a fleet that could act along the Dutch and French coasts. When the theatre of operation moved to the Atlantic, this role was assumed by Portsmouth and Plymouth, with Chatham concentrating on shipbuilding and ship repair. As an indication of the area's military importance, the first Ordnance Survey map ever drawn was a 1-inch map of Kent published in 1801. Many of the Georgian naval buildings still stand. In the early 19th century, smugglers were very active on the Kent coastline. Gangs such as the Aldington Gang brought spirits, tobacco and salt to the county, and transported goods such as wool across the sea to France. In 1889, the County of London was created and the townships of Deptford, Greenwich, Woolwich, Lee, Eltham, Charlton, Keighley and Lewisham were transferred out of Kent, and in 1900 the area of Penge was gained. Some of Kent is contiguous with the Greater London sprawl, notably parts of Dartford. During World War II, much of the Battle of Britain was fought in the skies over the county. Between June 1944 and March 1945, over 10,000 V-1 flying bombs, or doodlebugs, were fired toward London from bases in northern France. Although many were destroyed by aircraft, anti-aircraft guns, and barrage balloons, both London and Kent were hit by around 2,500 of these bombs. After the war, Kent's borders changed several more times. In 1965 the London boroughs of Bromley and Bexley were created from 9 towns formerly in Kent. In 1998, Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham, and Rainham left the administrative county of Kent to form the unitary authority of Medway. During this reorganization, through an apparent administrative oversight, the city of Rochester lost its official city status. For almost 9 centuries a small part of present-day East London formed part of Kent. The most likely reason for this is that in 1086 Hamon, Dapifer and Sheriff of Kent owned the manor and, perhaps illegally, annexed it to Kent. It ceased to be considered part of the county in 1965 upon creation of the London Borough of Newham. Climate. Kent is one of the warmest parts of Britain. On 10 August 2003, in the hamlet of Brogdale near Faversham, the temperature reached 38.5 degrees Celsius, the hottest temperature ever recorded in the United Kingdom. Physical geography. Kent is in the southeastern corner of England. It borders the River Thames and the North Sea to the north, and the Straits of Dover and the English Channel to the south. France is 34 kilometers across the strait. The major geographical features of the county are determined by a series of ridges and valleys running east-west across the county. These are the results of erosion of the Wealden Dome, a dome across Kent and Sussex created by alpine movements 10 to 20 million years ago. This dome consists of an upper layer of chalk above successive layers of upper greensand, gault clay, lower greensand, Weald clay, and Wealden sandstone. The ridges and valleys formed when the exposed clay eroded faster than the exposed chalk, greensand, or sandstone. Sevenoaks, Maidstone, Ashford, and Folkestone are built on greensand, while Ditton, Tunbridge and Tunbridge Wells are built on sandstone. Dartford, Gravesend, the Medway towns, Sittingbourne, Faversham, Canterbury, Deal, and Dover are built on chalk. The easterly section of the Wealden Dome has been eroded away by the sea, and cliffs such as the White Cliffs of Dover are present, where a chalk ridge known as the North Downs meets the coast. Spanning Dover and Westerham is the Kent Downs area of outstanding natural beauty. The Wealden Dome is a Mesozoic structure lying on a Paleozoic foundation, which can often create the right conditions for coal formation. This is found in East Kent, roughly between Deal, Canterbury, and Dover. The coal measures within the Westphalian sandstone are deep, about 250 to 400 meters, and subject to flooding. They occur in two major troughs, which extend under the English Channel where similar coalfields are located. Seismic activity has occasionally been recorded in Kent, though the epicenters were offshore. In 1382 and 1580 there were two earthquakes exceeding 6.0 on the Richter scale. In 1776, 1950, and on 28 April 2007 there were earthquakes of around 4.3. The 2007 earthquake caused physical damage in Folkestone. A further quake on the 22nd of May 2015 measured 4.2 on the Richter scale. The epicenter was in the Sandwich area of East Kent at a depth of some 10 miles from the surface. There was little if any damage reported. The coastline of Kent is continuously changing, due to tectonic uplift and coastal erosion. Until about 960, the Isle of Thanet was an island, separated by the Wantsum Channel, formed around a deposit of chalk. Over time, the channels silted up with alluvium. Similarly, Romney Marsh and Dungeness have been formed by accumulation of alluvium. Kent's principal river, the River Medway, rises near East Grinstead in Sussex and flows eastwards to Maidstone. Here it turns north and breaks through the North Downs at Rochester, then joins the estuary of the River Thames as its final tributary near Sheerness. The Medway is some 112 kilometres long. The river is tidal as far as Allington Lock, but in earlier times, cargo-carrying vessels reached as far upstream as Tunbridge. The Medway has captured the headwaters of other rivers such as the River Darrant. Other rivers of Kent include the River Stour in the east. Demography. At the 2011 census, Kent, including Medway, had 1,727,665 residents, had 711,847 households and had 743,436 dwellings. 51.1% of Kent's population excluding Medway was female. As to Medway, this proportion was 50.4%. The tables below provide statistics for the administrative county of Kent, that is, excluding Medway. Government. Kent County Council and its 12 district councils administer most of the county, while the Medway Towns Council, a unitary authority and commonly called Medway Council, administers the more densely populated remainder. Together they have around 300 town and parish councils. Kent County Council's headquarters are in Maidstone, while Medway's offices are at Gun Wharf, Chatham. At the 2013 County Council elections, control of Kent County Council was held by the Conservatives, which won 44 of the council's 83 seats. 17 seats were won by the United Kingdom Independence Party, 13 by the Labour Party, 7 were won by the Liberal Democrats, 1 by the Green Party and 1 by the Swanscombe and Greenhithe Residents Association. At the 2007 local elections, control of Medway Council was held by the Conservatives. 33 of the council's 55 seats were held by the Conservatives, 13 by the Labour Party, 8 by the Liberal Democrats and 1 by an independent. All but one of Kent's district councils are controlled by the Conservatives. A minority Labour administration taking control of Thanet district in December 2011 following the defection of a Conservative councillor to the Independent group. In the council elections of May 2015, the United Kingdom Independence Party took control of the council, the first and so far only one in the UK. In October 2015, UKIP lost overall control following a series of resignations, although remaining the largest party. At the national level, Kent is represented in Parliament by 17 MPs, all of whom are Conservative. Kent is in the European Parliament constituency of South East England, which elects 10 members of the European Parliament. Economy. At the 2001 UK census, employment statistics for the residents in Kent, including Medway, were as follows. 41.1% in full-time employment, 12.4% in part-time employment, 9.1% self-employed, 2.9% unemployed, 2.3% students with jobs, 3.7% students without jobs, 12.3% retired, 7.3% looking after home or family, 4.3% permanently sick or disabled, and 2.7% economically inactive for other reasons. Of residents aged 16 to 74, 16% had a higher education qualification or the equivalent, compared to 20% nationwide. The average hours worked per week by residents of Kent were 43.1 for males and 30.9 for females. Their industry of employment was 17.3% retail, 12.4% manufacturing, 11.8% real estate, 10.3% health and social work, 8.9% construction, 8.2% transport and communications, 7.9% education, 6.0% public administration and defense, 5.6% finance, 4.8% other community and personal service activities, 4.1% hotels and restaurants, 1.6% agriculture, 0.8% energy and water supply, 0.2% mining, and 0.1% private households. This is higher than the whole of England for construction and transport, communications, and lower for manufacturing. Kent is sometimes known as the Garden of England for its abundance of orchards and hop gardens. Distinctive hop drying buildings called oasts are common in the countryside, although many have been converted into dwellings. Nearer to London, market gardens also flourish. Kent is the main area for hazelnut production in the UK. However, in recent years, there has been a significant drop in agriculture, and industry and services are increasing their utilisation of the area. This is illustrated by the following table of economic indicator gross value added between 1995 and 2000. North Kent is heavily industrialised with cement making at Northfleet and Cuxton, brick making at Sittingbourne, shipbuilding on the Medway and Swale, engineering and aircraft design and construction at Rochester, chemicals at Dartford and paper making at Swanley, and oil refining at Grain, a steel mini mill in Sheerness and a rolling mill in Queenborough. There are 2 nuclear power stations at Dungeness, although the older one, built in 1965, was closed at the end of 2006. Cement making, paper making, and coal mining were important industries in Kent during the 19th and 20th century. Cement came to the fore in the 19th century when massive building projects were undertaken. The ready supply of chalk in huge pits between Stone and Gravesend bear testament to that industry. There were also other workings around Burham on the tidal Medway. Kent's original paper mills stood on streams like the River Darrant, tributaries of the River Medway, and on the River Stour. 2 18th-century mills were on the River Len and at Toville on the River Luce. In the late 19th century, huge modern mills were built at Dartford and Northfleet on the River Thames and at Kemsley on the Swale. In pre-industrial times, almost every village and town had its own windmill or watermill, with over 400 windmills known to have stood at some time. 28 survive within the county today, plus 2 replica mills and a further 2 in that part of Kent now absorbed into London. All the major rivers in the county were used to power watermills. From about 1900, several coal pits operated in East Kent. The Kent coalfield was mined during the 20th century at several collieries, including Chislet, Tilmerstone, Bettis Hanger, and the Snowdown Colliery, which ran from 1908 to 1986. The west of the county has less than 50% of the average claimant count for low incomes or worklessness as the coastal districts of Dover, Shepway and Thanet. West and central Kent has long had many City of London commuters. Since the Channel Tunnel rail link improvements of 2009 to High-Speed 1, services from Ebbsfleet near Dartford and from Ashford have become frequent. Express to central London, Paris and Brussels. Culture. Architecture. Kent's geographical location between the Straits of Dover and London has impact on its architecture, as has its Cretaceous geology and its good farming land and fine building clays. Kent's countryside pattern was determined by a Gavel-kind inheritance system that generated a proliferation of small settlements. There was no open field system, and the large tracts owned by the two great abbeys, Christ Church, Canterbury and St. Augustine's Abbey, that on the Reformation did not pass into the hands of the king. Canterbury Cathedral is the United Kingdom's metropolitan cathedral. It was founded in AD 598 and displays architecture from all periods. There are 9 Anglo-Saxon churches in Kent. Rochester Cathedral is England's second oldest cathedral, the present building built in the early English style. These two dioceses ensured that every village had a parish church. The ports Richborough Castle and Dover Castle, and the two strategic sites along Watling Street, were fortified by the Romans and Normans. Canterbury walled city, Rochester Castle. There remained a need to defend London and thus Kent. Deal Castle, Walmer Castle in late medieval times, and then Dockyard at Chatham and its surrounding castles and forts. Upnor Castle, Great Lines, Fort Amherst. Kent has 3 unique vernacular architecture forms: the Oast House, the Wealdon Hall House, and Kentish peg tiles. Kent had bridge trusts to maintain its bridges, and though the Great Bridge at Rochester was replaced, there are medieval structures at Aylesford, Yalding and Teston. With the motorways in the late 20th century came the M2 motorway bridge spanning the Medway, and then the Dartford Tunnel and the Dartford Bridge spanning the Thames. The Blue Water Shopping Centre is the United Kingdom's largest shopping mall. Literature. Kent has provided inspiration for several notable writers and artists. Canterbury's religious role gave rise to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, a key development in the English language. The father of novelist Charles Dickens worked at the Chatham Dockyard. In many of his books, the celebrated novelist featured the scenery of Chatham, Rochester, and the Cliff Marshes. During the late 1930s, Nobel Prize-awarded novelist William Golding worked as a teacher at Maidstone Grammar School, where he met his future wife Anne Brookfield. Visual arts. The landscape painter J.M.W. Turner spent part of his childhood in the town of Margate in East Kent, and regularly returned to visit it throughout his life. The East Kent coast inspired many of his works, including some of his most famous seascapes. Performing arts. The county's largest theatre is the Marlow Theatre, situated in the centre of Canterbury. It reopened, after being completely rebuilt, in October 2011.